Wexford's history with immigrated ships is defined by one of Ireland's most distinctive 19th century immigration routes. A direct transatlantic passage from County Wexford to Savannah, Georgia, along with other famine-era assisted immigration programs. We made it to the township, Wexford. I'm telling you, parking is no crack here, no crack. But we found some parking. The county's ports, especially New Ross and Wexford Town, became major departure points during the 1840s to the 1850s. The Wexford Pikeman statue is one of Ireland's most iconic memorials to the 1798 rebellion. Created by sculptor Oliver Shepherd and unveiled in 1905, it stands in the Bull Ring, Wexford Town, a site deeply tied to both the rebellion and early Cromwellian violence. The statue depicts a united Irish insurgent, a farmer armed with a pike, striding forward. Well, that's it for our excursions today in County Wexford. I'm here in Enniscorthy along the Riverwalk, and tomorrow we move on to Shannon. We have a few excursions along the way, but all in all, we had a great time here in Ireland. We move on to back to the States. If you like our content, please like and subscribe right down there. And we have more international trips coming up at the end of the year, and in between we continue on with our national park trips. So take care. We'll see you down the road. Here we are at the ship Dunbrody. It's a replica of a ship that took immigrants after the famine to North America. In 1988, New Ross created the John F. Kennedy Trust to use the Kennedy legacy to revive the struggling town. The trust decided to build a full-scale replica of a New Ross famine ship, choosing the Dunbrody because of its strong historic documentation and its link to the Kennedy era of immigration. Irish immigration ships fell into two broad historical categories: the early 19th century immigrant vessels and the infamous famine-era coffin ships. The most defining feature of these ships was extreme overcrowding, poor sanitation, high mortality rates that shaped the Irish experience of immigration during the Great Famine of 1845 to 1852. The term coffin ship itself reflects on deadly conditions many immigrants face. with mortality rates commonly reaching 20 to 30% on some voyages. Irish immigration ships were typically cargo ships repurposed to carry human passengers, often cheaply and dangerously. They were dark, poor ventilated, and overcrowded, with passengers packed into makeshift wooden berths. Food and water was minimal, sanitation non-existent, disease rampant, especially typhus, cholera, and dysentery. Irish immigrants slept in 6-foot by 6-foot cramped wooden bunks, stacked in tiers inside dark cargo holds, almost no ventilation. 4 to 6 adults and 2 children often slept in one bunk. They lived for 5 to 8 weeks in the filth, heat, and disease, with limited food and water, overflowing waste, and constant fear of sickness or death. Naval architect Colin Maudie designed the replica using the original ship's bill of sale and dimensions. I left my home in Wexford town, where barley bends in autumn brown, and mothers bless the wandering son, who follows where the tide has run. The gulls are crying overhead, like souls of kin and agents fled. The quail are cold, the ropes are worn, the ship cradle is newly torn. I carry but sod of clay to keep my heart from drifting away. A whisper to the wind foamed, a promise to remember home. For through the oceans miles are wide, and sorrow walks at every side. An Irish heart through far it roam, keeps one green field it calls home. And if I reach that distant shore, where strangers pass the cabin door, I plant my sod in the foreign soil, and hear the dreams of Wexford sound. So bless the road beyond the tide, the grief we bear, the hope we hide. For every exile, lost or tired, still carries Ireland deep inside. Well, we hope you enjoyed our series of videos of Ireland. We sure enjoyed touring that beautiful country. This is a little follow-up on some things that may help you if you are traveling to Ireland. Okay, the driving in Ireland, as you saw in our videos, is very interesting. Of course, you have to drive on the other side of the left side of the road, and you have to steer from the right side of the car. So that took some time getting used to, but that wasn't the bad part. The bad part is the roads are narrow, especially in little towns, as you can see in this video up here. It's not the greatest place to drive in, but you'll get used to it. We put full coverage on the rental car because I'll tell you what, you're gonna bang mirrors in little towns. You're gonna roll over the curb on the left side of the road. You're gonna just put a couple scratches in that car. And if you're careful, maybe you won't. But we did. We put some scratches in the mirror. We backed into a brick wall, things like that. But all in all, we got used to the driving. You know, there's other aspects to the driving, such as other cars coming in the opposite directions, like the lorries, which are semi-trucks in Ireland, and the big tour buses. And boy, you got to just hang on to that steering wheel when they come at you, because there's really not enough room. I mean, you're lucky that you don't bang mirrors or sideswipe each other, but we got through that. The roundabouts, we have them here in America. Everybody, some towns don't, but most of the towns are starting to get more and more of them here in America. But in Europe and Ireland, they have them every intersection. That's their intersection, is roundabouts. So we had to get used to that, driving on the opposite side of the street, and you just have to watch the traffic signs and know where you're going. Parking, now that's a different story in Ireland. There is not enough parking spots in that whole country. As like here in America, there's more cars than there are people, and there are more cars than there are in Ireland, except there are more sheep than cars and people in Ireland too. But the parking was terrible. Everywhere we went, we had to really look for parking, and you had to pay for parking in a lot of places. It's unbelievable. Even hotels, you had to pay for parking, but we have that here too. But we had one hotel, we had to drive around until we had an open spot. You'd think that they would have enough parking spaces for the rooms in the hotel, but we had no problem. Once we found a parking spot at the hotel and maneuvered into it, because they're all tight squeezes, even for these little tiny rental cars you get. But it wasn't too bad after. There was a few hotels where they had spacious outdoor parking and just like America, but some of these older hotels, you have to rely on some skinny parking or a car park that's not used to that many cars. The weather, we were there in early April, and so that was spring, and we are started up on the North Atlantic side of the country, so that's where the worst weather is. That's why they call it the Wild Atlantic Way, and so our first day was at the Cliffs of Moher, and it was 40-mile-an-hour winds and pouring rain. And it was so foggy we couldn't hardly see the cliffs. So you can't pick your weather, but unfortunately that was the only day that was the worst weather. I mean, we had rain all the way through. All the way to Dublin, and once we got to Dublin and started headed south, the weather got better. But you just have to take that with it. People say, Ireland's weather is it's either wet or it's wet. and that's why the country's green. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. Now the hotels, every hotel was sort of different. The few ones we stayed in were sort of like, modern type hotels, and we stayed in some old hotels, but they weren't great. They were great, and each hotel had a restaurant attached to it and a lot of great amenities. You had to get used to some things. Ireland claims to be a green country, also green and environmentally. So when you get your card key to your room, you have to slide it. Once you get in, you have to slide it in a slot, and that turns on all the lights. And when you leave, you can't leave any lights on or anything like that, because you got to keep your card key with you. So that's very unique. You probably have heard of that before, but that's the first time that I've seen that in a hotel. Also, the toilets are all new to me. For a country that's very environmentally conscious, they use a lot of water in their toilets. But you know what? They have a lot of water because it rains and the rivers are full all the time. It's not like here in the Southwest where we're starving for water. Now, like I said, the hotels had restaurants. If you chose to eat there, we decided we wanted to do the pub life, and we ate in a lot of pubs while we were there and drank a lot of Guinness. but the pub food is great. The atmosphere is great. Unfortunately, we never got into a pub where there was music going. I would have loved to see a nice Irish band sitting at a table playing music, but we did not get to see any of that. But the food is great, and there's one thing about those pubs is that they're not in a hurry to make you leave like here in America. You know, you sit there and they don't bug you about giving you a check right away. You can sit there and talk all night long if you want to, and then you have to ask for the check, and they'll bring it here. They leave you alone. They want your business. It's a beautiful atmosphere. Unlike America, you go in a restaurant and they're ready to get you out of there once your meal's finished. And so that was really beautiful that country does something like that. So the food was phenomenal. I mean, I think I had bangers and mash a couple times. I had, of course, every morning at the hotel you had a complimentary Irish breakfast, which you know is with the blood pudding. You know, it's a biscuit, but they call it blood pudding, and with eggs and Irish potatoes, and unbelievable. Oh, it filled me up. The other food is like like I said, bangers and mash, and you could have cobble, which is an Irish soup. We had Guinness stew. I mean, we sampled most of the Irish famous dinners. And top it all off, they are very friendly. They find out you're American. They don't turn their nose up on you or nothing like that, like other countries do. But they were very friendly at all. They helped us if we were lost, or they answered our questions. And it was such a great time with the tour guides. They're funny and witty, and the tours that we took on, they're just very friendly. We were in this little lunch place, and I can't think of this little town or something. We stopped for lunch on our way in between hotels, and my brother was ordering food, and the lady behind the counter said, "Oh, I love your accent." And I look at him and I said, "I bet you've never heard that before," because nobody says that in America to us. So, but they're very friendly people everywhere we went. On the tours that we took, they're very cordial and funny, great sense of humor. I can't say anything bad about the people of Ireland. Okay, the sights we did see, we saw the Bushmills. Of course, the Bushmills whiskey tour. Of course, it was holiday. They weren't running the distillery, so we got the tour, but the distillery wasn't running. And I was designated driver, so I didn't partake in any of the samples, but my brothers did. But that was a wonderful tour guide again. Learned some things I didn't know about whiskey. So I recommend that tour when you're in Ireland. Now we passed on the Giant's Causeway because that was a very tourist area. I mean, we passed it, and there was tour buses. And what that is a basalt monument pillars that you can walk on, and they're unique because the way they're stacked. If you've seen any basalt, basalt pillars are all over the world. Here in America, the Devil's Post Hole National Monument. It's close as the Giant's Causeway, and that's near I believe Sequoia and Kings Canyon. But there's other basalt pillars, like in Iceland. There's one famous canyon that's all those pillars. So I mean, we decided not to go to see that because of the tourists. Too many tourists there. But if you go to Ireland, that's one of the tourist attractions. Now in Dublin, there's plenty things to see. We went to, of course, the Guinness experience, and that was wonderful. It's not a brewery tour; it's experience, they call it, and you go up, constantly climb up around this big Guinness pint, that they call, and you learn about the process of the brewing process of Guinness. And once you get to the top, there's a bar, and it's called the Gravity Bar, and you get a free sample of Guinness. So I highly recommend that when you if you're going to Dublin on your tour. It was a great experience, and we had a fun time. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to cover about driving and with rental cars. If you're driving in Republic of Ireland and you cross into Northern Ireland, you'll all of a sudden notice you have 2 speed limit indicators on your dashboard, which I thought, whoa, what speed limit should I go by in Northern Ireland? Well, it's because Northern Ireland has different regulations and speeding and different types of cars. So you just have to look at the road signs, and it'll tell you what speed limits you should go. Don't get it gets confusing, because sometimes there's a 15-kilometer difference, on those 2 speed limits. So follow the signs, not the speedometer readings in Northern Ireland. Again, I hope you liked our series of videos on Ireland and all our other videos that we post on YouTube here. We'll be posted more in the near future, and I hope that you would like our channel and subscribe to our channel, because I just found out that the Taliban has 100,000 subscribers. I should have at least that many. So please subscribe and like. Also, we have upcoming national park videos that we are going to continue on that, and to accomplish our goal to at least see all the national parks that we can. I know there's going to be some in Alaska and American Samoa that I probably will never be able to get to, but we're going to do our best. We're at 22 and counting, and we have a few more coming up. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Push those buttons down there. Like, subscribe, ring that bell, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.